Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. If you can do that, you can achieve almost anything. Every goal you've got, every single one, comes down to your ability to make yourself do the work. Not once, not when it feels good, but every day, whether you're in the mood or not. That's the difference between people who talk about success and people who actually reach it. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need to learn how to take control of your actions. And that starts the moment you stop letting your feelings decide your future. If you can train yourself to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, you become powerful. Because now you're not depending on motivation. You're depending on discipline. That's what this video is about. How to force yourself to act. How to stop delaying. How to show up for your goals, whether it's comfortable or not. Once you learn that, your life begins to move fast. Because now you're in control, and success always starts with personal control. Stick with this. You'll learn something today that can change how you operate for the rest of your life. Number 1, self-discipline is not a gift. It's a choice you make daily. Self-discipline is not something you're born with. It's not a personality trait. It's not built into your DNA. It's a decision. It's a decision you make every single day, sometimes even every single hour. And the truth is, most people avoid this topic because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to blame the outside world than to admit you're not doing what you said you would do. But if you want to achieve anything meaningful in your life, if you want to go from stuck to moving forward, if you want real results, not just dreams, you have to learn one thing above all: how to force yourself to act when it's hard, when it's boring, and when no one's watching. Because that's where self-discipline lives. Right in those quiet, unnoticed moments when you either give in to laziness or push through with effort. There's something powerful that happens when a person realizes this. When they stop waiting for the right feeling, or the right time, or the right push from someone else, and instead start building that push from within. Most people think discipline comes from motivation, but motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. It depends on your mood. It fades the moment you get tired or distracted. But discipline is different. Discipline is not based on how you feel. It's based on a commitment to what you want. It's waking up and doing what needs to be done, no matter how you feel about it. And when you train yourself to live this way, your life changes faster than you think. People love the idea of success. They love watching motivational videos. They love imagining the lifestyle they want. But few people love the work it takes to get there. And here's the part most won't tell you. You won't always feel like doing it. That's not something to be ashamed of. It's just human nature. The important part is what you do when that feeling shows up. Do you listen to it, or do you override it with action? Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. And consistency is a choice. It's not flashy. It's not always exciting, but it's powerful. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, you gain more control over your life. Think about how much time you've lost waiting for the right mindset, waiting to feel energized, waiting for that magical moment where everything lines up. That's how people waste weeks, months, even years. Discipline doesn't care about perfect moments. Discipline says, it's 7 a.m. You have a plan. Now go execute it. Discipline says, this is your responsibility, and you're going to handle it. And the more you live that way, the more powerful you feel. Not because it's easy, but because you've proven to yourself that you can handle discomfort. You don't build discipline by talking about it. You build it by doing the hard thing over and over until it becomes your new normal. And it doesn't have to start with anything big. In fact, the smaller, the better. Wake up on time, stick to your workout, finish your reading, clean your space, turn off the distractions. These are simple tasks. Simple tasks, but the act of following through on them is what builds the identity of someone who follows through. That's the real win. Not the goal itself, but who you become on the way to the goal. Now I want to say this clearly. Nobody is watching you as closely as you think, and that can be dangerous. Because when you know nobody is holding you accountable, you're more likely to slack off. That's why self-discipline matters. It's the ability to hold yourself accountable, even when no one else will. That's rare, and that's what makes it valuable. It's easy to look good in public. It's easy to show up strong when people are clapping. But what about when it's just you, your alarm clock, and your responsibilities? That's where character is built. That's where real change happens. The people you admire, the ones who've built something real in their life, they weren't always that disciplined, but they trained themselves to become that way. They pushed through the early mornings when they didn't feel like it. They worked on their goals while others were distracted. They built routines when it was uncomfortable. That's why they're ahead. Not because they're special, but because they learned how to manage themselves better than most. And I know sometimes it feels like you're too far behind, like you've already wasted too much time. But that's a lie. It's not too late. You can start building discipline today. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. You don't need to do everything at once. Just start with what you can control right now. Set a time. Keep that time. Set a goal. Work on that goal. Set a boundary. Stick to that boundary. That's discipline in motion. And it's the only way forward if you're serious about your future. The truth is, self-discipline is not supposed to feel easy. That's the whole point. It feels hard because it's pulling you in a better direction. And most of what we avoid, the workouts, the deep work, the planning, the hard conversations, we avoid them not because we can't do them, but because we don't feel like doing them. So if you can learn how to act despite those feelings, you've unlocked something most people never will. You've given yourself the power to direct your own life. And once you taste that, you won't want to live any other way. Self-discipline creates momentum. And momentum makes everything else easier. You don't have to drag yourself through every task. Once you build momentum, you start looking forward to it. You start taking pride in your consistency. And even when you're tired, even when life throws something at you, you won't break, because your habits will carry you. That's the power of discipline. It holds you up when nothing else can. So stop thinking of discipline as something other people have. It's not a rare gift, it's a choice. And it's a choice you get to make today, right now. You don't need another reason. You don't need someone else to push you. This is your life. And if you want something better, you're going to have to earn it, one disciplined day at a time. Now here's the challenge for you. Prove it. Prove to yourself that you can follow through, not to impress anybody else, but for your own growth, for your own pride, for your own future. Pick something today. Stick with it for a week, then do it for another. You'll see how much your confidence grows when your actions match your intentions. You'll stop doubting yourself, because your results will do the talking. And that's what this is really about. It's not just about checking off goals. It's about becoming someone you can respect, someone you can count on. That kind of confidence doesn't come from outside. It comes from living with discipline. That's how you get ahead. That's how you change your life. And it all starts with one choice, one act of self-control that says, I'm serious now. Discipline isn't a gift, it's a muscle. And if you want to grow it, you've got to train it. Start today. Start with what you can control, and never again hand over your progress to your feelings. You're in charge now, not your mood, not your excuses. You, and that changes everything. Number 2, every goal demands a cost. You must be willing to pay it. Every goal has a price tag. That's something most people don't like to hear, but it's the truth. If you want something meaningful, if you want to make a real change in your life, if you want to rise above average, there will always be a cost. And no, it's not money. It's time. It's energy. It's effort. It's the hard work behind the scenes when no one's clapping for you. It's the discipline of doing what you said you would do when it's inconvenient. That's the price of any real goal. And if you're not ready to pay it, you're not ready to succeed. That's not negative. That's reality. And it's that reality that will either push you to grow or keep you stuck where you are. Living a life full of what-ifs and almosts. We live in a time where it's easy to want everything fast. One-day delivery, quick likes, instant gratification. But real goals, goals that matter, don't work that way. You don't build a healthy body in a week. You don't grow a successful business overnight. You don't master a skill with just inspiration. You pay for it with practice, with sacrifice, with patience, and most importantly, with consistency. The problem is, a lot of people want the reward, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. They want the outcome, but not the effort. And that mindset is what keeps so many people circling the same life, year after year. Every time you set a goal, you have to ask yourself, what is this going to cost me? And am I willing to pay that price? Because the price is always there, whether you acknowledge it or not. For some people, it's waking up earlier. For others, it's saying no to distractions. Sometimes it's giving up the comfort of staying the same. Sometimes it's the pressure of showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. And the truth is, if you're not willing to pay that cost, someone else will, and they'll get the results that could have been yours. The people who accomplish great things in life are not always the most talented. They're the most committed. They decide early on that whatever it costs, they're going to pay it. They don't look for shortcuts. They don't avoid the work. They lean into it. They know it's not supposed to be easy. They understand that sacrifice is the entry fee to every level of growth. And when others are complaining, stalling, or quitting, they're moving forward quietly, steadily, relentlessly. There's no way around the work. That's the part no one can do for you. You can have mentors, you can read books, you can take courses, but at the end of the day, the work has to be done by you, your habits, your decisions, your discipline. That's the price you pay. And what you get in return is not just the goal itself, but the pride that comes from knowing you earned it. That feeling is worth more than anything you can buy, because it's yours. You didn't get lucky. You didn't cheat. You didn't coast on someone else's effort. You earned it with your own sweat, time, and focus. You also have to be honest about what your current lifestyle is costing you. People always think in terms of what they're giving up when they chase a goal. But what are you giving up by not chasing it? What is the cost of staying the same? That's something people don't talk about enough. Staying comfortable might feel safe, but over time it becomes expensive. You lose confidence. You lose momentum. You miss opportunities. You waste years thinking about what could have been. That's a high price. And in many ways, it's far more painful than the temporary discomfort of growth. If you've ever looked at someone successful and thought, I wish I had what they had, stop and think about what they've paid to get there. They've sacrificed sleep, comfort, entertainment, and ease. They've missed out on things you might not see. You only see the result. You don't see the nights they stayed in when others went out. You don't see the early mornings they chose over sleeping in. You don't see the frustration, the setbacks, the failures they had to get through. But they pushed through anyway, because they knew the goal was worth more than the pain. And this isn't about becoming obsessed or giving up everything that makes life enjoyable. It's about prioritizing. It's about asking yourself, what matters more, this temporary comfort or the life I really want? That's a powerful question, because when you answer it honestly, you start to take control. You stop saying, I don't have time. You stop blaming your environment. You stop making excuses. You take ownership. You become someone who shows up and does the work, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching. Goals don't care how you feel. They respond to your actions. And your actions are determined by what you're willing to give up in order to gain something better. You want to build discipline. That's going to cost you laziness. You want to level up your health. That's going to cost you convenience. You want to reach a higher level in your business or career. That's going to cost you time and energy. It's all connected. You give something to get something. That's the simple, unavoidable rule. But here's the part people forget. When you start paying that cost daily, it gets easier. Not because the work changes, but because you change. Your mindset shifts. Your tolerance for discomfort grows. Your habits improve. Your focus sharpens. And before you know it, the cost that once felt overwhelming starts to feel normal. You're not struggling through it anymore. You've adapted. You've become stronger. And that's when progress starts to compound. That's when results begin to stack up. That's when you look back and realize you're living a different life. Not because someone handed it to you, but because you paid for it, one choice at a time. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've been thinking about a goal, something you want but haven't pursued seriously, this is the time to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to pay the price? Not in words, not in dreams, but in action. Are you willing to trade short-term comfort for long-term strength? Are you willing to do the boring things over and over until they build something powerful? Because that's what it takes. And if you are, then the goal is not out of reach. It's just waiting for you to show that you're ready. You already know what needs to be done. Deep down, we all do. The problem is, most people don't follow through. Not because they're weak, but because they never made a real commitment to pay the cost. Don't be one of them. Don't keep restarting your journey. Don't keep waiting for perfect timing. Make today the day you decide, and make tomorrow the day you prove it. Over and over. That's how you win. That's how you build a life that's not just impressive on the outside, but meaningful on the inside. So stop looking for the easy way. Start looking at the cost and pay it in full. The future version of you is waiting, not for more motivation, not for better circumstances, but for you to take ownership. That's the price of every great achievement. And the moment you choose to pay it, everything starts to change. Number 3. 1 hour of relentless action beats 10 hours of passive thinking. Most people spend too much time thinking and not enough time doing. That's the truth. They sit with their ideas. They make lists. They overplan. They talk about what they're going to do. And they fill their days with a lot of mental activity, but not much real movement. And what happens? Nothing changes. Because no matter how clear your plan is, no matter how big your vision is, if you don't take action, your ideas stay stuck in your mind. You can think all day long, but the person who takes 1 hour of focused, relentless action will always be ahead of the person who spends 10 hours thinking about what they might do one day. 1 hour of real, concentrated effort can produce more progress than days of sitting still, analyzing, or waiting for the perfect moment. This is where so many people get stuck without even realizing it. They feel productive because they're planning. They feel busy because their mind is working hard. But there's a big difference between being busy in your head and being productive in real life. You can feel tired at the end of the day just from thinking about everything. But if you didn't move the needle forward, then you didn't really progress. And that's what makes the biggest difference over time. Action. Not talk, not theory, not even research. Just direct, intentional, focused action. If you're serious about changing your life, you have to understand this. The people who rise above are not the ones with the most knowledge. They're the ones who put what they know into motion, and they do it consistently. That's the separator. Not brilliance, not talent, but action. 1 hour of work every single day on something that truly matters will build a future faster than any 10-hour binge of information or endless planning sessions. You don't need to know everything. You just need to move. Now I get it. Action feels uncomfortable. It exposes you. You can fail. You can make mistakes. You might feel unprepared, but that's the cost of growth. You learn by doing. You don't learn by thinking forever. The truth is, clarity comes through action. You don't figure it all out before you start. You figure it out by starting. That first hour you force yourself to work even when you're unsure. That's where momentum begins. That's where confidence is born. That's when your brain starts to trust you. Because you're no longer just thinking, you're actually living what you talk about. You'll never know what you're capable of if you don't take the first step. That step may be small, but it's everything. A person who works for 1 focused hour, without distraction, without hesitation, is making more progress than someone who's been talking about their dreams for months. And it doesn't have to be complicated. If you want to get fit, spend 1 solid hour sweating, lifting, running. If you want to start a business, spend 1 hour making calls, building systems, or solving real problems. If you want to improve your mindset, read, reflect, or journal with purpose for an hour. Not while scrolling, not while distracted. 1 focused hour of effort beats 10 hours of passive thinking every single time. The best part is that most people won't do it. That's your advantage. Most people would rather keep their goals in their head because it's safer there. There's no risk. There's no discomfort. There's no pressure. But there's also no reward. Goals stuck in your mind don't grow. They fade. And every day you delay action, they fade a little more. You owe it to yourself to stop overthinking and start acting. You owe it to your future to prove that you're serious. And here's what's interesting. Once you actually take that 1 hour of real action, something shifts inside you. You begin to realize it wasn't as scary as you thought. You start seeing progress. You get clarity. You become sharper, more decisive, more confident. You start asking better questions because you're in the process, not just watching from the outside. You start separating yourself from the crowd. Because while most are waiting to feel ready, you're already building. You're creating results they can only talk about. I'm not saying you should never think. Thinking is important. Planning has its place. But too many people stay in their head and never bring anything to life. You don't need another idea. You don't need another podcast. You need to act on what you already know. You need to turn knowledge into movement. And the way to do that is by showing up for at least 1 solid hour a day, with intensity, focus, and 0 excuses. If you can do that, you're going to start seeing the gap between who you are and who you want to be close faster than ever. And yes, it will be hard. You'll want to stop. Your mind will try to convince you to take it easy, to do it later, to think about it more. Don't fall for it. This is where discipline kicks in. This is where you separate yourself from your past self, because the old you would have stopped. The old you would have said, maybe tomorrow. But the new you, the version that wants results, says, no. Now 1 hour. Let's go. And you get to work. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but consistently. And that's what makes all the difference. You don't have to spend your whole day grinding. That's not the point. The point is to work with intention. Even 1 focused hour a day, stacked over weeks and months, will completely change your life. It will change the way you think, the way you feel, the way you show up. You'll gain momentum. You'll start seeing results. And when that happens, motivation comes back. Not because you waited for it, but because you earned it through action. So stop thinking about everything that could go wrong. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop rehearsing your dream in your head. Just pick something that matters and do it fully, completely, with no distractions. For 1 solid hour, make that your new habit. Make that your new standard. Not someday, not when it's easy. Every day, 1 hour. No excuses. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that moves your life forward is what you actually do. Not what you plan, not what you talk about, but what you physically commit to. You can sit around and think about your goals, or you can stand up and take 1 hour to chase them down. And when you do that, day after day, you stop being someone with potential, and you become someone with proof. And that's a transformation worth everything. Number 4, results come from repetition, not once in a while effort. If you really want to change your life, if you really want to achieve something that matters, then you've got to understand this clearly. Results don't come from what you do once in a while. They come from what you do consistently. Every goal you've ever had, every dream you've ever imagined, every level of growth you've thought about reaching, it all depends on what you're willing to do repeatedly, not occasionally. 1 day of effort won't do it. 1 productive week won't do it. 1 amazing month isn't enough. You have to show up over and over again, especially on the days when it's not fun, when it's not easy, when nobody's clapping. That's where the real growth happens. That's where real results come from. Repetition, not random effort. A lot of people start strong. They get excited. They feel motivated. They do the work for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, but then it gets hard, or it gets boring, or life gets in the way, and they stop. They convince themselves they'll get back to it later. But that's how progress dies. Slowly, quietly, with too many breaks and not enough follow-through. You can't build anything solid if you keep stopping and starting. That kind of inconsistency keeps you stuck. And what makes it worse is that most people don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're working hard. They remember the good days, but they forget all the days they skipped, all the chances they missed, all the time they lost in between. And that inconsistency adds up. Over time, it becomes the reason they stay exactly where they are. Repetition is where the breakthrough lives. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's often repetitive, quiet, and demanding. But that's the point. Anyone can do something once. Anyone can be motivated for a week. But only the committed keep going long after the excitement fades. That's why so few people reach the top. Not because they're more talented, but because they're more consistent. They put in the work daily. They repeat the process. And even when it's hard, they don't look for a shortcut. They stay in it. That kind of discipline builds unstoppable momentum. You have to understand that change is not about doing something different every day. It's about doing the right things over and over until they become automatic. That's how habits are formed. That's how your identity changes. That's how you stop being someone who wishes for results and become someone who earns them. When you wake up and make the same right choice again and again, your brain starts to believe that this is who you are now, and that belief changes everything. If you want to be fit, it's not about one intense workout. It's about showing up to train, even when you're sore, tired, or busy. If you want to build a business, It's not about one lucky sale or viral moment. It's about working daily on your product, your message, your service, until people can't ignore you. If you want a strong mindset, it's not about one motivational video. It's about feeding your mind positive input, reading, thinking, and learning, again and again, until negativity can't control you anymore. That's the power of repetition. It doesn't just change your results, it changes you. But here's the challenge. Repetition feels slow. You won't see results right away, and that can be discouraging. You might look around and think, I'm doing the work, but nothing's happening. And that's where most people quit. They don't realize that the work is building something inside them long before it shows up on the outside. Those small daily actions, they compound. The progress may be invisible at first, but it's real. The discipline you build, that's progress. The habits you're forming, that's growth. The confidence you earn from following through, that's worth everything. But you only get that if you stay in it. You only get that if you repeat the right actions long enough to see the result. You can't water a plant once and expect it to grow. You have to water it daily. You can't study for one night and expect to master a subject. You have to go over it again and again. You can't have one honest conversation and expect a relationship to improve. You have to keep showing up. The principle is the same in every area of life. What you repeat, you reinforce. And what you reinforce becomes part of who you are. That's why repetition is not just about results. It's about becoming the person who can handle those results. And this doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You will miss days. You will slip. You'll feel tired. That's normal. What matters is that you get back to the pattern as fast as you can. Don't let one bad day become a bad week. Don't let one mistake make you doubt your entire goal. Stay close to the habit. Stay close to the effort. Protect your progress with everything you've got, because it took time to build. And if you stop now, it starts to slip away. Repetition is not just what gets you results. It's what protects those results. The best part is that repetition also makes things easier. What's hard now becomes easier over time if you keep doing it. What feels unnatural today becomes automatic if you don't give up. The first time you do something, it's uncomfortable. The 10th time, it's familiar. The 100th time, it's part of you. That's how behavior changes. That's how excellence becomes effortless. But none of that happens if you only put in effort once in a while. So don't chase the rush of doing something new all the time. Chase the reward of doing something right, long enough to see the change. Stick with the workout. Stick with the routine. Stick with the system. It's not supposed to be exciting every day. That's not what makes it powerful. What makes it powerful is the fact that you kept going when you didn't feel like it. That's what builds confidence. That's what builds mental strength. That's what turns average results into extraordinary ones. You don't need to reinvent yourself every week. You don't need to start over every month. You just need to stay with what works. Improve it slowly. Keep your focus locked in. Build rhythm. Trust the process. When you get this right, when you finally stop trying to do 1,000 different things, and instead do a few things right, over and over, you'll be shocked at how quickly your life starts to move forward. Not because you're doing more, but because you're doing what matters more often. You've got the power to change your life, but only if you stop waiting for motivation and start trusting in consistency. You don't need big wins every day. You just need to repeat the right actions again and again. And if you do that long enough, the results will show up. Not by accident, but because you earned them, through discipline, through focus, through relentless repetition. That's how the game is won. And the moment you truly understand that, you'll stop chasing quick results and start building something real. Number 5. The faster you start, the faster you improve. The biggest mistake people make is waiting too long to begin. They think they need more time, more knowledge, more money, more motivation, more something. And while they wait, their life stands still. They sit on ideas for months. They dream big, but do nothing. They plan and prepare and overthink until they run out of energy before they even take the first step. And then they wonder why nothing has changed. But the truth is, the people who make the fastest progress are not the ones who know everything. They're not the ones who feel completely ready. They're the ones who start. They take the first imperfect step. They move, they act, they enter the process. And because they start faster, they also start learning faster. They grow while others are still thinking. They build momentum while others are still hesitating. And eventually, they get ahead. Not because they had more advantages, but because they had the courage to begin. If you're serious about your goals, there's one mindset you need to adopt as soon as possible. Done is better than perfect. That one shift will push you forward faster than any course, any coach, any motivation ever will. The faster you start, the faster you make mistakes. Yes, but also the faster you learn. The faster you gain experience. The faster you realize what works and what doesn't. You can't learn everything from watching videos or reading books. You need to live it. You need to feel the pressure, handle the resistance, face the uncomfortable moments that only come when you're actually doing the thing. That's where the real growth comes from. That's when you start separating yourself from the crowd. What people don't see is that hesitation has a hidden cost. When you delay starting, you're not just pausing progress, you're weakening your confidence. You're feeding fear. You're giving your brain more time to come up with reasons why you shouldn't do it. And before long, the fear becomes bigger than the goal. You start doubting yourself. You start thinking maybe you're not good enough. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe you'll try again later. But deep down, you know that's not true. You know the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. That hesitation turns into habit. And that habit turns into regret. That's why the only way forward is to act. Right now, not tomorrow. Starting doesn't mean you have to be reckless. It means you stop using preparation as a shield from action. It means you stop making excuses and start making progress. Even if it's messy, even if it's small, even if you fail. Because that failure will teach you 10 times more than your imagination ever will. You get clarity by doing, not by thinking. You find your strength by testing yourself, not by waiting until you feel strong. Every person who's achieved anything real has one thing in common. They started when they weren't fully ready, and that's what pushed them to grow. When you start early, you buy yourself time. You give yourself a head start. You allow yourself to adjust, to improve, to adapt. You'll make mistakes, sure, but you'll also recover from them faster. You'll learn how to pivot. You'll build discipline. You'll develop real confidence. The kind that doesn't come from books or talk, but from experience. That confidence becomes your fuel. It makes the next step easier, the next challenge less scary. And over time, you become the kind of person who doesn't need to wait for ideal conditions. You become someone who takes action no matter what. So many people are stuck in their heads. They're overanalyzing every detail, trying to make everything perfect before they even begin. But what they don't realize is that perfection is an illusion. There's no perfect moment. There's no perfect plan. There's only now. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you take control. You don't need a perfect script. You need one step, 1 hour of focused effort, one task completed today. That's how you begin. That's how you shift from dreaming to doing. And that one step opens the door to everything else. You'll be surprised how quickly things change once you start. You'll notice opportunities you didn't see before. You'll attract better habits. You'll start thinking differently, acting differently. And it all starts with action. You don't need more time to think about your goals. You need 1 hour today to work on them. That single hour will teach you more than weeks of hesitation ever could. That's how you gain speed. That's how you gain strength. That's how you move forward, while others stay stuck. Every day you wait, someone else is starting. Someone else is building. Someone else is taking the first steps toward what you want. And every day you wait, you're giving your future away. Not because you don't have the ability, but because you didn't have the urgency. The most successful people are not always the smartest. They're the ones who act with urgency. They don't wait to be fully confident. They don't wait for approval. They don't wait for the perfect time. They just go. And because they go, they grow. Because they move, they improve. You have more inside you than you know, but you'll never access that power if you don't start. You can't unlock potential by thinking about it. You unlock it by showing up. You figure it out while you move. You adjust as you go. But none of that can happen until you take the first step. And the faster you take that step, the faster you build the life you want. So stop telling yourself it's not the right time. Stop believing you need more before you begin. You don't need more. You need movement. Start now. Start small. Start scared. But start. Because the faster you start, the faster you improve. And once you improve, everything else gets easier. Your confidence grows. Your focus sharpens. Your path becomes clearer. You stop second guessing. You stop hesitating. And you start living like someone who is serious about what they say they want. Every single person who's ever reached a goal had to start at the beginning. Don't be afraid of starting small. Be afraid of staying stuck. You're not too late. You're not too far behind. But you are responsible for how long you wait. Make today the day you move. Make today the moment you choose action over delay. Because the longer you wait, the harder it gets. But the sooner you start, the faster everything gets better. And the only thing standing between you and that future is whether or not you start right now. Number 6. The goal is not to feel good. The goal is to get it done. There's a reason so many people feel stuck, even though they say they want more out of life. They want better health. They want more success. They want to grow, but they keep waiting for the right feeling to show up before they act. They keep telling themselves, I'll do it when I feel better, or I'll get to it when I'm more motivated. And that's exactly why they stay in the same place year after year. Because here's the reality that most people avoid. The goal is not to feel good. The goal is to get it done. That's the difference between people who make real progress and people who stay busy but never move forward. The ones who win are not the ones who feel amazing every morning. They're the ones who do the work, no matter how they feel. When you stop making your emotions the boss of your day, that's when your life starts to change. Because feelings are temporary. They come and go. You wake up energized one day, then drained the next. Some days you're clear-minded and focused. Other days your head is a mess. But your goals, they don't care how you feel. The deadline doesn't move because you're tired. The opportunity doesn't pause just because you're overwhelmed. The results you want, more confidence, more money, better health, stronger discipline, none of it waits for your feelings to align perfectly. You either act through it or you stay behind. This is why it's so important to learn how to work through discomfort, not avoid it. Not try to feel your way around it, but move through it. You have to train yourself to act even when your mood tells you to do nothing. That's a skill. That's a muscle. And the people who grow the fastest in life are the ones who've built it. They don't rely on their emotions. They don't depend on motivation. They show up, they execute, they complete the task, especially when they don't feel like it. And because of that, they build trust with themselves. They prove to themselves, day after day, that their actions are stronger than their moods. And that's where true confidence comes from. Think about how many things you've put off just because you didn't feel like doing them. How many workouts you skipped. How many opportunities you let pass. How many days you spent procrastinating instead of just starting. And what do you get from that? A short burst of comfort maybe. A bit of temporary relief, but no progress, no result. Just more frustration, more guilt, more regret. And it always adds up. That's the problem with letting your feelings run the show. They'll always push you toward the easy route, the safe choice, the delay. And they'll convince you it's logical, even responsible. But deep down, you know what it really is. It's avoidance. You don't need to feel great to get started. You don't even need to feel ready. What you need is to move. Even a small step. Even when your energy is low. Even when your mind is foggy. You take action. And something amazing happens when you do that. Action changes emotion. Movement creates energy. Completion builds momentum. Suddenly, the same task that felt overwhelming starts to feel manageable. The same thing you were avoiding becomes a source of pride. But none of that happens if you keep waiting for the perfect emotional state to begin. And look, this doesn't mean you become a machine. It doesn't mean you ignore your mental or physical health. It means you stop letting your emotions be the only voice in the room. You acknowledge how you feel, but you don't let that feeling decide the outcome of your day. You learn how to say, yes, I feel off today, but the goal still matters. I'm going to show up anyway. That single mindset shift is what separates those who make things happen from those who only talk about it. It's easy to act when everything feels right, when you're inspired, when you're rested, when everything's going your way. But real growth happens on the days when none of that is true. The day you show up, even though you're tired, that's growth. The day you finish the task, even though you're discouraged. That's growth. The day you push through the doubt, the laziness, the noise, that's where the breakthrough lives. That's the day you become stronger than you were yesterday. And the more days like that you stack together, the more unstoppable you become. We've been taught that success should feel exciting, that we should always be passionate and fired up. But that's not how it works. Some of the most important work you'll ever do will feel boring, repetitive, even annoying. And that's okay. You're not doing it to feel good. You're doing it to get the result. You're doing it to honor your word. You're doing it because you said you wanted something better. And now it's time to prove it. Not when it's convenient, but especially when it's not. There's a huge sense of power that comes from doing something you didn't feel like doing. It shifts your whole mindset. It changes how you see yourself. You stop needing external motivation because you've built something strong, internal discipline. You become the kind of person who acts with or without the mood. And that makes everything in your life easier. Not because the tasks are easier, but because you've stopped waiting for comfort to begin. The truth is, your future depends on what you do when you don't feel like it. That's where your edge is. That's where the progress is made. That's what builds character. You want to build a great life. Get good at doing the things that matter, especially when you don't feel like it. Get good at showing up when your energy is low. Get good at following through when your mind is noisy. Get good at finishing what you start, regardless of how you feel along the way. That's where the wins come from. That's where the transformation happens. So the next time you feel like skipping something important, the workout, the meeting, the writing, the project, remember this: the goal is not to feel good. The goal is to get it done. That's what moves your life forward. That's what separates you from the version of yourself that keeps quitting. Every time you push through, you become a little stronger. Every time you complete the task, you move a little closer. Not because it was easy, not because it felt great, but because you decided that the outcome matters more than the mood. And once you live that way, there's no going back. You'll never be the same. You'll be someone who finishes, someone who creates results, someone who leads themselves no matter what. And that is where your real power begins. Number 7. If you can do it once, you can do it every day. The moment you do something hard, something you've been avoiding, something that required real discipline, real effort, that's the moment everything can change for you. Because now, you've just proven to yourself that it's possible. Not someday, not in theory, not when everything is perfect, but right now in real life. If you can do it once, you can do it again. And if you can do it again, you can do it every day. And that's what builds everything. Not talent, not luck, not big breakthroughs. Just doing the right thing over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. What people don't understand is that doing something once is not small. It's everything. That first time, the one time you showed up, even when you didn't want to, the time you made yourself do it anyway, that's evidence, that's proof that it's not impossible. That the voice in your head that said, you can't do this, was wrong. That you're actually stronger than your excuses. Most people never even get there. They get close, they think about it, they plan it, but they stop just short of taking that first real step. But if you've already done it, even once, you've broken through the hardest barrier. You've removed the lie that says you can't. Now the only thing left is repetition. The real battle is not about whether you can do it. It's whether you'll do it again, and again, and again. That's what builds success. That's what builds identity. That's what builds the kind of discipline most people only talk about. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be the one who shows up daily. Consistency always beats intensity. You can go hard for a week and burn out, or you can go steady every day and actually change your life. And the moment you realize you've already done it once, that's your permission to stop overthinking it and just do it again. This applies to everything. You worked out once, that means you can train again tomorrow. You stuck to your diet for a day, you can do another. You wrote a page, you can write another. You made a call, handled a task, faced something uncomfortable. That means you're capable, and capability, when repeated, becomes identity. You stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, and you start saying, I am disciplined. That shift doesn't come from reading about it or talking about it. It comes from doing it, again and again, until it feels normal. And yes, it will be hard at times. Nobody's denying that. But hard doesn't mean impossible. Hard just means it requires more focus, more intention, more of your effort, not just your attention. You've already proven you can handle hard things. You've already shown up when it was uncomfortable. So now, instead of waiting for motivation to magically appear, you use that one moment as your anchor. You say, if I did it yesterday, I can do it again today. And that's how you build streaks. That's how you build momentum. Not from inspiration, but from action, repeated with purpose. The reason most people don't change isn't because they don't try. It's because they don't keep going. They treat effort like a one-time thing. They celebrate too soon. They think one day of progress should lead to permanent results. But that's not how it works. Results don't come from what you do once. They come from what you do daily. That one workout isn't what changes your body. It's the 100 that follow it. That one focused hour at your desk doesn't change your business. It's what you do with that hour every day after. That one decision to say no to distractions doesn't make you disciplined. It's the 1,000 decisions that come after it that shape who you become. But it all starts with that one time. And if you've done it, you've got everything you need to build something great. Most people think consistency is a personality trait. It's not. It's a skill. It's a system. It's the choice to repeat something that works, even when you don't feel like it, even when your emotions tell you to stop, even when the results don't show up right away. You build consistency by refusing to negotiate with your emotions, by sticking to what you committed to, not what your feelings say today. The beauty of it is, the more you do it, the easier it gets. What felt like a challenge becomes routine. What used to be effort becomes your standard. And over time, your baseline rises. You stop surviving on willpower and start living in alignment. You become the person who gets things done. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. And people around you will notice. Not because you're louder, not because you're showing off, but because you're becoming dependable, steady, focused. And that kind of presence can't be ignored. It doesn't matter what your goal is. Physical, financial, emotional, professional. It all works the same way. If you did it once, you have the blueprint. Your job now is to follow it daily. No shortcuts, no excuses, just consistent action. And when you miss a day, and yes, that will happen, you don't fall apart. You don't throw away the progress. You return to what you know. You remind yourself, I've done this before. I can do it again. That's the language of winners. Not perfection, not constant motivation, just relentless follow-through. You have more control than you think. You have more strength than you've been using. And you've already proven that you can act. So the only thing left is to keep doing it. No drama, no pressure to be perfect. Just a quiet, steady commitment to show up again today, just like you did yesterday. That's what moves you forward. That's what separates people who only want change from people who live it. The ones who improve are the ones who start and keep starting. So don't downplay your effort. Don't say it was just one time. No, that one time is your key. That's your proof. That's the moment you should replay in your mind every time you want to give up. Because if you did it once, you've already proven that it's possible. That means today you're not starting from nothing. You're starting from evidence. And all you need to do now is act on it. Not next week, not someday, today. Because every day you repeat the right thing, you build something that can't be taken away from you. Your work ethic, your integrity, your results. And no one can argue with that. Not even the old version of you. Number 8. Nobody sees the daily work, but it builds everything. The truth is, most people will never see what you do every day. They won't see the hours you spend grinding in silence. They won't notice the sacrifices you make when no one's watching. They won't hear the battles you fight inside your head just to stay consistent. The small decisions, the quiet discipline, the daily effort, it all happens in the dark, away from applause, away from praise. And yet, that's exactly where everything is built, not in the spotlight, not on social media, not in big moments of recognition, but in your routine, in your repetition, in the way you carry yourself when there's no reward in sight. That's where real success is born. Everybody loves the result, They love the transformation. They admire the confidence, the success, the outcome. But most people have no idea what it actually takes to get there. They don't see the early mornings when your alarm goes off and you force yourself out of bed, even though your body wants to stay still. They don't see you choosing to work when it would be easier to scroll your phone or binge something meaningless. They don't see the mental strain it takes to show up on days when your energy is low and your motivation is gone. And that's what makes this part so hard. You have to be willing to do the work in silence, with no one cheering you on, with no one recognizing your progress. But make no mistake, that's the work that counts the most. You're not building your future when things are easy. You're building it when it would be so easy to quit, and you don't. You're building it in those moments when no one would blame you for taking the day off, but you don't. And it's not about proving anything to other people. It's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted with your own potential. That's the kind of confidence that can't be bought, can't be faked, and can't be taken away. You earn it in the dark, one decision at a time. The daily grind is unglamorous. That's why most people avoid it. They want something louder. They want something more exciting. But the loudest results come from the quietest work. You do the workout when you're sore. You study when you're distracted. You keep showing up when your mind is screaming for comfort. That's not about hype. That's not about motivation. That's about character. And the thing about character is, it's not built in public. It's built in the moments no one sees, no one praises, and no one talks about. But it's those moments that separate people who wish from people who actually do. Look at anyone who's truly built something great. You'll notice they all have one thing in common. They've mastered the art of showing up when no one's watching. That kind of consistency isn't driven by ego or external rewards. It's driven by purpose. It's driven by the internal standard you set for yourself. When you commit to something and follow through with it every single day, even when it's tough, even when it's lonely, you start building a sense of inner strength that changes how you walk, how you speak, how you show up in the world, because you know what it took. And that's something no one can ever take away from you. It's not about making a big move once. It's about doing the little things over and over and over again. And yes, it's going to feel repetitive. Yes, it's going to feel invisible. But what's happening under the surface is real. You're creating habits. You're building self-trust. You're developing discipline. And all of those things compound over time. Just like drops of water wearing down stone. Your daily effort slowly shapes your future. People won't notice it right away. That's okay. They don't need to. Because when the results come, they'll be impossible to ignore. This is why you can't get distracted by the opinions of people who don't understand your journey. You can't let their noise break your focus. You're not doing this for applause. You're doing it because you've decided to take your life seriously. You've decided to be someone who creates their own path. And that kind of decision demands work. Daily work. No shortcuts. No skipping steps. No skipping days. Just one honest day stacked on top of another, until your life begins to reflect the effort you've been pouring into it. You will get tired. You will feel like it's not paying off fast enough. You'll question whether it's worth it. But that's part of it. That's how you grow. And if you can hold the line through those days, if you can keep your head down and keep doing what needs to be done, something powerful starts to happen. You start seeing change. You start feeling different. You notice that the person you're becoming is someone you respect, someone you admire. And that's the biggest win of all. Because external results can fade. They can be taken. But the person you become through the process, that stays with you forever. You're not just building success. You're building endurance. You're building discipline. You're building a mindset that says, even when no one sees me, I show up. Even when no one claps, I do the work. Even when it's hard, I don't quit. That mindset doesn't just help you reach goals. It makes you unstoppable. You don't need validation. You don't need perfect conditions. You've got something better. Consistency, grit, and a standard that doesn't change just because you're tired. So don't chase recognition. Chase growth. Don't chase praise. Chase progress. Don't chase a big moment. Chase the small wins that stack up into something unshakable. Your daily work is the foundation. It's the difference maker. It's the proof that you're not just interested in success. You're committed to it. And commitment, especially when it's quiet, especially when it's unseen, builds a kind of success that no one can ever deny. One day, people might look at you and say, "You're lucky, you've changed, you've got it all together." But you'll know better. You'll know it wasn't luck. You'll know it was the days they didn't see, the mornings you didn't feel like it, the nights you wanted to stop, the hours no one talks about. That's where you built everything, quietly, relentlessly. And that's exactly why you deserve everything that's coming. Keep going. Keep showing up. Oh, it's all counting even if nobody sees it right now. One day they will. Number 9. Stop talking about what you're going to do. Just start. People love to talk about what they're going to do. They talk about their plans, their dreams, their ideas, their future routines. You hear it all the time. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to launch my business. I'm going to wake up earlier. I'm going to fix my habits. It sounds good. It feels exciting to say. And for a moment, it gives a little emotional boost. Talking about change feels like movement. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to admit. Talking about something doesn't move you forward. Only action does. Until you actually begin, nothing is happening. Nothing is improving. Your life is not changing just because you said it might. You have to stop talking about what you're going to do and start doing it. Otherwise, all you have is a dream that you keep putting on pause. This is something that holds so many people back. Not because they're lazy, not because they're not capable, but because they've trained themselves to get satisfied just by talking. It's a trap. The more you talk about your goals, the more you feel like you're actually making progress. But really, you're just stalling. You're staying in the comfort of conversation instead of stepping into the discomfort of execution. And the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to leave. Eventually, you start believing your own talk. You convince yourself that you're about to start or just waiting for the right time. But deep down, you know it's fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failing, fear of not being perfect. So you stay safe by talking about it, but never committing to it. You don't need more ideas. You don't need a better plan. You don't need another day to think about it. You need to start. You need to take the first step, even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't feel completely ready. Because once you start, everything changes. You shift from theory to reality. You stop guessing and start learning. You stop imagining how it might feel and actually experience it. That's where growth comes from. That's where momentum lives. But none of that happens if all you do is keep talking. And I know how tempting it is to keep sharing your goals with people. It feels like you're holding yourself accountable. It feels like you're letting the world know what you stand for. But if you keep making promises without action, those words start to lose their meaning, not just to others, but to yourself. You start doubting your own follow-through. You lose credibility with the one person who matters most, you. And when that happens, it becomes even harder to start, because you're carrying the weight of every promise you didn't keep. The solution isn't complicated. You don't need to shut the world out. You just need to make your actions louder than your words. Say less, do more. Work in silence if you have to. Build momentum behind closed doors. Let your results speak for you. Because once people see consistency, they stop needing explanations. They stop asking questions. And you stop needing validation. You stop looking for approval. Because now you're living it, not just talking about it. When you take action, even if it's small, you gain something that talk will never give you: real evidence. Proof that you're capable. Proof that you're serious. Proof that your goals are not just ideas, but part of your lifestyle now. And every day you keep going, you build trust with yourself. You stop needing motivation. You stop second guessing, because now you've got results to point to. Habits that back it up, and the mindset that says, I don't just talk about it, I live it. The people who actually reach their goals are not the loudest, they're the most consistent. You don't need to announce every step you take, you just need to take it. And once you do, you'll be shocked how quickly things start to shift. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you've changed your posture. You're no longer sitting in the crowd of talkers. You're on the field. You're moving. You're uncomfortable, but progressing. And that puts you in a different category entirely, because most people never get to that point. They stay in the loop of planning and talking and explaining. But the ones who break free, they start, and then they keep starting. You don't need to know how it all ends. You just need to know how to begin. And once you begin, you learn faster. You grow faster. You adapt. You develop habits. You build structure. And before long, you're not even thinking about starting anymore. You're thinking about optimizing. You're thinking about improving. You've moved past the phase of hesitation and into the reality of momentum. And that momentum is what builds your life, not your opinions, not your intentions, but your repeated actions over time. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about showing up with the best version of yourself every single day. It's about showing up with whatever you have and doing something with it. It's about replacing the need for hype with the power of follow-through. It's about realizing that talk might give you temporary attention, but action builds permanent change. And that's what you're really after. Change that sticks, growth that lasts, a version of you that doesn't have to explain themselves, because the results speak louder than any words ever could. So if you've been talking about what you're going to do, stop. Not because you're not allowed to dream, but because dreams mean nothing without action. Stop waiting for the mood. Stop waiting for the motivation. Stop telling yourself you need just one more day to prepare. You don't. You need to do something now. Something real. Something that takes you out of your comfort zone and into motion. Because motion creates clarity. Action builds direction. And the second you take that first uncomfortable step, the game changes. What you do today matters more than what you said yesterday. What you build over time matters more than what you imagined last week. Let your hands do the talking. Let your habits do the proving. Let your progress shut down every doubt, every delay, every excuse. You're not here to impress people with potential. You're here to live up to it. You're here to show what happens when someone finally decides that talking is over and doing is all that matters. So start now. Start quiet. Start messy. But start, because the future doesn't care about what you said you were going to do. It only responds to what you actually do. Number 10. Progress begins when excuses end. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize that nothing changes until they stop making excuses. That moment is uncomfortable, even painful, because it forces you to look in the mirror and admit something hard to accept. You are the one holding yourself back. It's not your past. It's not the people around you. It's not the lack of resources. It's not the timing. It's you. And that realization can either make you shut down or wake you up. But if you choose to face it, if you choose to finally take full responsibility for your life, that's when real progress begins. Because progress doesn't show up when conditions are perfect. It doesn't wait for motivation or for other people to support you. It shows up the second your excuses stop. Excuses are easy to make because they sound reasonable. They feel safe. They help protect your pride when you fall short. They give you something to blame when things don't go your way. And in the short term, they relieve pressure. But in the long term, they keep you stuck. They trap you in a cycle of talking about change without ever experiencing it. And that's a miserable place to be, knowing deep down that you're capable of more, but constantly justifying why you're not doing more. That internal tug of war drains your energy and chips away at your confidence, day after day. When you remove the excuses, even if it's uncomfortable, you get your power back. You begin to see that you don't need perfect conditions to get started. You don't need to feel 100% ready. You don't need permission from anyone else. What you need is to own your decisions. You need to say, no more waiting, no more blaming. I'm going to do what needs to be done starting today. And that shift, that mental switch unlocks everything. Because now you're not looking for a way out. You're looking for a way forward. You're not focused on what's missing. You're focused on what you can do with what you have. Progress doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't expect you to know everything. It just requires action, real, honest, daily action. And the truth is, you already know the actions that would move your life forward. You know the habits you need to change. You know the conversations you've been avoiding. You know the tasks you keep putting off. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is excuses. The stories you tell yourself to avoid doing the uncomfortable work. And those stories are convincing. They sound smart. They feel justified. But they are the enemy of your growth. You can't grow if you're always explaining why you're not growing. You can't get better if your first instinct is to defend your old habits. And you'll never move forward if you keep waiting for the perfect time, because that time doesn't exist. Every day you delay is another day you could have been getting stronger. Every excuse you make is another wall between you and your next level. And the more you feed those excuses, the more they become part of your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone capable of change and start seeing yourself as someone who's always a few steps behind. That mindset will never bring you results. It will only keep you in survival mode, living below your potential, pretending you're trying when you know deep down you're avoiding what needs to be done. The moment you stop making excuses, you also stop wasting energy, you stop overthinking, you stop defending mediocrity, and you start making room for focus, clarity, and discipline. Suddenly your days aren't filled with what ifs and maybes. They're filled with structure, intention, and progress. You don't waste time waiting for the right mindset, because you've already chosen a new standard. That standard says, I don't negotiate with my excuses anymore, I work anyway. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Growth always is. You'll have to say no to distractions. You'll have to push through when it gets boring. You'll have to show up when it's hard. But every time you do that, you build something that lasts. Not just results, but self-respect. You start to like who you're becoming. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped running from responsibility. That kind of growth changes everything. It changes how you walk, how you talk, how you approach your future. You can tell when someone has let go of their excuses. You can see it in their discipline, in their body language, in the way they show up. They don't talk about what they're going to do. They're already doing it. They don't blame others when things go wrong. They adjust and keep moving. They don't need outside validation. They've built their self-worth through action. That's the kind of person you become when you decide enough is enough. When you finally get honest with yourself and say, the only thing in my way is me, and I'm done making excuses for it. So many people have big goals but small follow-through. They dream big but act small. And the space between what they want and what they do is filled with excuses. If you want to close that gap, you have to get ruthless about accountability. You have to stop accepting your own delays as logical. You have to stop treating your future like it can wait. It can't. Life doesn't pause while you try to figure it out. You either show up for it, or it passes you by. And the longer you let excuses win, the harder it becomes to catch up. But the good news is, you can stop the cycle at any moment. You can wake up tomorrow and say, I don't need a new plan. I just need to follow through. You can look at your to-do list and choose one thing that matters and finish it. You can go to the gym, make the call, write the page, have the conversation, and when you do, you won't just feel better, you'll get better. That's real progress. And it feels nothing like the temporary relief of an excuse. It feels solid. It feels earned. It feels like the beginning of a new chapter. You don't need another reason why you can't. You need one reason why you must. And that reason should be your future, your potential, your ability to look in the mirror and say, I kept going. I didn't run. I did the work. That's what changes everything. That's what builds momentum. And once you have that, nothing can stop you. Not because the world gets easier, but because you've made yourself stronger. And that strength doesn't come from wishing. It doesn't come from talking. It comes from the day you finally decided that excuses no longer belong in your story. From that moment on, you start living like someone who's ready to grow. And when you live that way, progress isn't just possible, it becomes inevitable. If you want to change your life, don't wait for the right mood. Train yourself to act. No matter what, force yourself to do the hard things, the boring things, the things you've been avoiding. That's how goals are achieved. Not through perfect plans, but through daily discipline. You've already got the potential. Now it's time to build the habit of action. Start today. Show up tomorrow. Keep going. Because once you learn to lead yourself, nothing stays out of reach. The power has always been in your hands. You just have to use it. Now go do the work.